You're listening to the C1D Paintball Podcast.
Hey, it's Andrew from C1D Paintball. It's the C1D Paintball Podcast. And with me today, we have two individuals joining me. I hope I pronounce these names correctly. I believe this is Mike, Mike.
That's me.
And we also have Connor, my son, the kid who sleeps under the steps.
I'm glad you finally learned how to pronounce my name properly. It took you a little bit, but you made it.
Yeah, well, your mother named you, so blame it on her with that. All right, so two things. One main topic we're going to talk about today: the upcoming 1v1 tournament that Connor has been working so hard at. But first, we can't ignore an event which is very big. It was actually the second big game we ever attended, Connor and I. In 2019, we attended the Tipman Challenge at Mirabel Paintball. It's commonly known as the Mirabel Big Game. We were going to have a few of us represented at the big game. But I had commitments which got wiped out, as well as the commitments off the field. And Mike, there was a few other players that were going to join you as well, but we had a flood in the province. So while some of us had to deal with it on Saturday, the game still went on. Mike was there. Mike, just give us a little synopsis of it. And I know there was a couple of C1D guys with you. Let us know how it went before we get into that whole 1v1 thing here.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, and as you know, it's my first year, first full year, so I'm still trying to get out there and check out all the events and all the different fields, and I've been wanting to check out Paintball Mirabel for a bit, and it just so happens that, they had this Tipman event, and just like every other thing, last minute we decided we wanted to go, and I'm happy we did. We got Michelangelo to go. It was me, Miranda, Michelangelo, and T-Hit. And Michelangelo had some friends and some other guys that we played with there, some other guys from D-Day, familiar faces. But it was a really cool event. It reminded me a lot of D-Day as far as the game play. The map was a bit different. I believe they got like 33 maps or something there, and all of them combined to make this kind of like roundy horseshoe type map, which seemed at first I was kind of confused on how we were gonna play it out, but after getting on the field and taking all the different routes, it worked out pretty well. It was really fun. The biggest problem I had, which I don't think anyone else would really have an issue with, was just it was like a 100% French, which when we go to other events or, closer down south, there's a lot more, more English. So it's a little easier for us to figure stuff out. And if it wasn't for Michelangelo and T translating for us, I think we would have been on the wrong team, probably running in the opposite direction. But it was really fun. The game mode, it was like a domination style. There was 2 flags in a bunch of different sectors, one for each team, and basically the farther you advance, you take the flag back, and that tells you how far you got into it. So that was kind of cool. It was different. The map was just unbelievable. The stuff that they had on there, airplanes and helicopters and helipads and trenches, full trench systems. I was blown away at what they had to offer there. A little less people than D-Day, but it didn't seem like it. There was a lot of action going on, just 24/7. Hugo, the owner, he was an awesome guy, very involved in the event, all over the place. and they had the raffles, which was really cool. The raffles, they had some during lunchtime, and then some at the end of the games. And I was lucky enough to pull a TMC
I saw
on the
that.
raffle, which is really exciting.
I saw that.
Is it true that you almost didn't win it because you didn't maybe know the language?
Yeah, because I had no idea. So
Yeah, that's what
I had the first raffle where they were going off your armband, so it was 3 numbers. So I have like a little bit of knowledge of, basic numbers. But the last one was like a 50-50 style, so it was like 7, 8 numbers. After the first number, I was lost. So I had some translators for me. Jay translated for me, and I was just sitting there stuffing my face with corn. And he's like, "Oh, you won!" And I'm like, "What? What? I won?" He's like, "Yeah."
Nice.
So yeah, that was really cool. And I will tap on, because I'm a foodie. The food that came with the ticket price was absolutely phenomenal. I'm not sure of the restaurant name.
Oh,
I
but
think it was
it
St.
the ham
Hubert.
chicken? Was it the chicken
St.
meal?
Hubert.
It was like a quarter chicken.
Yeah.
No, it was a quarter chicken.
Yeah.
A bunch of French
St.
fries,
Hubert, yeah.
coleslaw, bread,
Yeah.
and then before that, it was like unlimited, all you could eat corn on the cob,
Mhm.
which I thought was awesome. Everyone was just walking around with ears of corn.
Yep.
But overall, I was really impressed with everything. The refs that day were awesome. The games were super fair. And I found out at the end on actually how fair it was, because it's not the only reason the other team lost, but they basically said it was pretty even fighting back and forth all day. But one of the biggest reasons why the point reduction and why we won and the other team lost is because all throughout the day, the guys weren't going back to their spawns, or they were taking like little detours and maybe stopping at their cars and then coming back in through like the midfield and stuff. And the refs were so good at catching that, they were deducting points for it all day, So it was a really fair, really cool, overall, just good game. I felt really good at the end of the day.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. It was,
I could talk about it all day.
Yeah. Well, like I mentioned, it was the second big game we ever played, Connor and I together. It was a month after D-Day, well, a little over a month after our first D-Day as well. And there's no question it's a big event. Maybe we add it next year and have a second big game as a part of pushing it, because I know we really push D-Day in that. And more than happy with that.
Mhm.
You mentioned 2 things too. Hugo's a legend, a paintball legend.
Yep.
In lots of parts of Canada, Quebec in particular. And there's no question the actual field and the individual fields at Mirabel are like world class. They're really sensational
I
fields.
couldn't. I was blown away at some of the things I saw, and I had to just stop at some points and just take a look around and be like, I can't. Not only the money spent, but just the feeling you get being on there. It really feels like a battlefield. And I will just add one thing. I don't know if they had it the year you guys did, but 3/4 of the way through the game, I was sitting in a bus and a tank pulled up. I'm sure you guys saw it on the video, but just a tank pulled up, and I was like, oh my God, what do I do? Do I shoot this thing? And then all of a sudden it pops up the window and starts shooting at me. So I'm like, all right, game on. Like, let's go. And that was probably one of the coolest parts of the day, is seeing that thing.
Yeah, lots of vehicles, towers. I mean, the different. It's kind of cool when you're running through the fields there, because there isn't different themes to each. And as you're playing in a big game, there's a lot of fields you run through that you're not going to battle on, but you sit there going, "Man, I'd like to come back here and play on this one day." So maybe next year. And actually, the thumbnail to this this podcast, I'm going to do a flashback, because I usually have our logo with an outline of a C1D player. Connor, I got that classic picture of you running 2019 at Mirabel, so we'll tuck that.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Where I'm running to you, running back. But
yeah.
That's awesome. So I was looking for videos before we decided to go, so I could just get a little idea of what we were getting ourselves into. And sure enough, that was the first one that popped up.
Oh, ours?
I was like, they did go. They went in 2019. Yeah, I was like, they went in 2019. They've been there. They know all about it.
Yeah.
No, definitely.
No, it's
cool.
Playing on that with all for the big game style, with all the fields are connected, it reminds me so much of a map from, it's either Call of Duty or Titanfall, where it's meant to be like a training field, where it's kind of like it's been breached, and so all the fields are open up. So like one part of the map you're in a snowy part, then the next part you're in like in a jungle. And obviously
Oh,
the weather's
nice.
not different, but you go from like one setting that there's a castle, and now you're in like, you know, Vietnam-esque buildings, and you're on the beach
Nice.
with the trenches. It reminded me a lot of
Yeah, that's exactly what it felt like. There was so many different
you know,
vibes to it.
it's awesome.
Way back in the woods, Vietnam style stuff, and
Mhm.
The castle.
And-
so you've been working really hard, Connor, on this. I didn't even see the castle. I don't know how I missed that, unless I just I
North
don't
part
know.
of the field.
Castle's scary. I couldn't
I
go
must
in
have
it.
missed it.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so
the 2-story castle in the woods.
All right, so we're going to segue over from that into another event. Not as many people as the Titman Challenge, but I tell you one thing, Connor has been working tirelessly and putting the effort that it's like a big game kind of thing. And the main thing, of course, is C1D. It's our guys. We're going to go out there and have some fun. But Connor has thrown out a lot of work in the rules and the structure with this because you know what? It's actually the base to maybe a bigger thing going forward. And, no pressure on that. So Connor is going to just explain a few of the rules. And I think there might even be an Easter egg to do with what's happening on the weekend. He's not going to let all the cats out of the bag. The only thing I do want to say, though, is those of you playing in the tournament, be there and ready at 9. We want to go up and start at 9:30. I'm going to bug you for the next few days on Facebook, and we'll hit you up on the this thing Discord thing. So be there on time because we want this to work like clockwork. There's a lot of games to play. It's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. So a few of us are Connor and myself are putting in extra work. So drag your ass out there on time and be ready. All right, Connor, without any pressure. Just let us know about this first time event, which is it's kind of like a beta, or is it? But the way you're planning it, I mean, it's like it's going gold. So without further ado, Pony Boy.
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, we're hosting the tournament. Obviously, had to register for it, and I made some slides so that I wouldn't ramble like a complete idiot. So, share window.
Okay.
Oh, can you see my screen on the
I can
thing?
see your screen. It's a little tiny, but okay, there we go. So, wow.
So
I should put a tie on. It's like I'm in a corporate meeting.
It's a presentation.
Yeah,
Sit up straight.
yeah, I threw this together quickly yesterday. All right, so it's not the prettiest thing, but I'll go over it. So basically, how it's set up is that we're going to have 3 different rounds of games. So first, we're going to begin with placement games, which are 2 pretty short and quick games, and they're kind of pretty casual in terms of the rules. Then there's the actual playoffs. So that's where you're, after you get placed, you're playing these games where you're put into a bracket. And within these, it is double elimination. So that means if you lose, you're put into the loser's bracket with a chance to come back and win the tournament. Then the third format of games is the finals. So once again, these are just different types of games that we'll be playing, all with different rules, where the placements are casual, the playoffs are semi-competitive, the finals are pretty hardcore. I tried to go over the rules. So, like, this is just a tentative schedule to follow, is that we're going to explain everything there before we start, because obviously not everyone's might not listen to this, or, I might change some things. But after that, we'll do the placement rounds first, then do all the winners bracket games, then lunch, then the losers bracket, and then finals. Okay, so general rules. So there's going to be kind of some specific rules, but I'll remind them for each thing, whether we're in the placements, the playoffs, or the finals. But generally, we're playing by Warzone's rules, so like to follow their safety protocols, right? And obviously to play fair, to not break any rules, so no playing out of bounds, stepping out of bounds, no wiping paint, no blind firing, I don't expect any of these to be a problem since this is obviously like a closed group thing and we know everybody. But if you do break these rules and it's like obvious that you get shot and you wipe it or something, then you could lose a round or possibly the entire match depending on how severe it is or if it's like a repeated thing. And otherwise a general rule across all of these games is that there's no freezing. I decided on no freezing because of how close quarters the tire ball field is, which we'll be playing all the games on. And it was a little difficult with maybe coming up with ideas that if you got frozen, you had to accept it or this or that. And I was coming up with a lot of conditions. So I think it's easier to just say that you do not freeze. So you always go for the shot, unless it's like a barrel tag where you're like basically right around the corner from somebody, you can reach around and tap them. You don't want to point blank shoot them. So yeah, without further ado, we're going to go into the placement games now, the rules for that. So
I don't see anything on my screen. But
oh, you don't?
No, I don't actually.
I didn't want to say anything.
I see it's brown and that, but it says in the middle, click to exit full
Click
screen.
to exit full screen.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There we go. But you
There we go.
explained
Oh.
everything to a T. You explained
Okay,
everything.
my
to a
bad.
T. No, that's
Okay, well,
fine.
there
Yeah, I
it is.
didn't want to interrupt you because you were doing such a good job.
So yeah, that's the format that I had, and that's the schedule, and this is the general rules I was saying. So now for the placements. So the placements, I don't know what to really call them, so I'm just calling them a speed match. So within it, there is no winner or loser really. So how it works is that within the time, all you're supposed to do is just kill your opponent without dying without dying as much as you can. So you want to get as many kills and as little deaths within the time. In these speed games, which we'll play 2 of them, these determine your seeding into the playoff brackets. And so how does it work? Will be played on tire ball, and the rounds will be 30 seconds. So once the timer starts, you kill your opponent, and if somebody dies, the timer is stopped. And once the timer is stopped, the game pauses and the players switch sides. Then the timer restarts.
And it's quickly.
Where it left off.
They quickly
Yeah.
will start again.
Exactly, yeah. So you keep on playing until that 30 seconds is done. And say the timer stops. I'm not going to stop the game. The ref won't stop the game. It goes until the next kill. So it's like a sudden death type thing. And
I like that, by the way. I don't want to comment on everything because you've done such a great presentation I'll have to go through, but I love that idea because imagine if it's tied, you'll settle it on the last kill. Imagine if you're up by 1 and you're in that extra time. It's like, I got to make this kill or, so anyway, I'll let you go, Connor.
Exactly.
That's an excellent feature though.
I know. Thank you. So otherwise, some other thing for the placement matches. So the placement matches is the 1 round. So those 2 games are the only time where you'll be able to use your own marker. However, I didn't write this down. We're going to not include speedball guns, speedball markers, I'm pretty sure. So it's not final, but I'm pretty sure we're not going to allow that. But otherwise, you use whatever you want.
You said on the placement matches?
Yeah, in the placements.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we should have. It's not really C1D like to have speedball markers, and our guys are safe in that. I think they'll understand, but definitely another good direction with that.
Yeah. So, and how it works is that within the game, all hits counts, including bounces, and if you get headshotted, even a marker hits. Because I don't want it to be where it's like somebody gets hit and we have to do a paint check. It's if you're hit anywhere, you're dead, game pauses, switch sides, restart the timer. And just in case, because we did a little trial game, and we actually had 2 people trade kill, so they died simultaneously. So if that happens, both players get a kill and a death.
Okay.
And so an important thing to note is how the games are matched. So it might seem a little weird at first that it's like, oh, you can use whatever the hell you want, right? I can use my fully auto whatever, and it's not going to be fair. Well, how it is that the survey I put out recently, I gathered everybody's results to give every player an average score. And so within these placement games, you'll be matched into little subgroups. So you'll be matched against someone at your skill level or near your skill level based on what other players think of you. So, like, say we have a good player, like, well, let's say speedball markers are allowed. T hits, he likes to use a speedball marker a lot. So even if he did, he'll be playing against somebody that is his skill and should be able to counteract the fact that he has a speedball gun. So if you normally use MagFed and you want to use MagFed, you could. Maybe it's not the best idea, but you'll be playing against people that you should be able to still fight and have a chance against. And keep in mind, these games, if you lose both of them, there is no losing, but if you do bad in both of them, not get a single kill, you're not out. So these are just for fun, basically. Get the rust off you, learn the field, kind of. So, yeah.
It's a very creative approach to, well, let's just draw names out of the hat. We're a squad amongst ourselves. Connor's put the thought into this, and the idea that we rank ourselves and we kind of play with it and kind of get a kick out of it. It's and then adding the skill and the shots. I mean, it just how many kills and deaths to get that ranking. I think it's a cool way. And in this database you've created for it as well, is you could run a league off this. You could have a tournament with X amount of people on it. So it's so cool instead of just doing our. I love the popsicle sticks, Connor. I think that's a staple of how we play, at least this year. But the way you're doing this, it's really cool because if somebody like a player that's not very good like me happens to go on a tear for 2 games and I have this positive numbers because of it, you know, it's kind of like it'll add the next round. I'll actually get to reap rewards for it. It's just, I think it's very thoughtful for everybody on the talent scale.
I agree.
That's what I was trying to do, where everybody has a chance. And without getting into how the placement works, because it's more than just kills and deaths, but I don't want to reveal it, at least yet. Maybe once the tournament's over, I can publish the points, because it's kind of a complex formula I made. But I made it so each of these hidden groups has an equal chance of getting that first seed, that second seed, in a fair way. Or what I think is the most fair. And my friend Sam, who isn't participating, doesn't even live here, he helps me with the data. And so yeah, I think we have a good system. Okay, so now for the playoffs. Like I said before, it's double elimination style. So how it works, right, is that everybody starts within the winner's bracket. So in this picture, it is like this group up here. And if you lose, you go into the loser's bracket, okay? And so that means with the placement games and with the playoffs, you play at least 4 games. So 2 of those arcade games and 2 more competitive games. And so players that go into the loser's bracket, so if you lose once, you can still win. You can go all the way up to the finals and be the champion. Once again, the field is tireball, and this is a best of 5 where there is a obvious winner or loser. Unlike the placements that it's kind of, you know, you're just getting a score. So how does this work? Player equipment. So all players will be provided standard field markers. So we'll give, we're going to borrow probably 4 of the field, the regular field markers, the little stubby ones. So this ensures that it's, you know, fair, and it's a more competitive thing where we don't have, you know, a mismatch in terms of equipment, so that both players on even ground, and that it's not something too complicated. You know, everybody's used that, and if you haven't, well, it's nothing difficult to learn how to use. But even though we're providing you with a marker, you still have to use your own balls. And so for this, it's anything from Warzone, whether that's member or non-member balls. And obviously, I guess there's a little bit of a difference between using that member or non-member paints, but having the same gun that's shooting at the same, well, they're maintained, right? They should be shooting at the same level, right? Having different balls shouldn't make a difference between winning and losing. The objectives, so obviously, right, you have to win 3 rounds if it's best out of 5, but how do you win? There are 2 ways. So either you can eliminate your opponent to win a round, or there's the objective, little objective capture, which is the spire. The spire on the tire ball field. It's what I'm calling that little tower in the middle. That it's the mound of tires with a few small ones with a giant cone on top. So after 30 seconds of the round starting, if there isn't a winner, whoever touches the spire first wins the round if they're not hit, okay? So imagine the round goes on, right, and nobody's winning, nobody's died yet. To ensure that the rounds aren't going for 2 minutes this early on in the tournament, we're doing this to help speed up the rounds, but also 30 seconds in a 1v1 on a field that small, it should really only happen in pretty rare occasions. So yeah, don't think it's always going to be a time thing. Otherwise, here's some rules specific to the playoffs. Players can't be eliminated in the first 3 seconds, so this isn't to say that you can't shoot, but you cannot be eliminated. So we'll have something like where I do the 1, 2, 3, go, and then I'll count 2, 3, blow the whistle, and that means that, hey, if you get hit now, you're out. Okay? All hits, including bounces, count except for a marker hit on your marker, obviously. And unlike the placement matches, if both players are knocked out simultaneously, where it's like impossible to tell who got the other one, then the round would be replayed. And then lastly, to touch on for spawning, right, a topic to mention for tire balls that there's the high ground, the low ground, and so in order to make it as fair as possible, the player going into that match, that's the higher seeded player, they get to choose which side they start on, whether that's the top or low ground. So they decide where they start for the first round. And after that, it just goes on a rotating cycle back and forth. So if you start at high ground, you're low ground for round 2. Then you're high ground for round 3, low for 4, high for 5. Okay. Otherwise, that is the playoffs. Moving on to the finals.
The spire, by the way, and the 3 second where you can't be shot at the beginning of the game, for those who might be dense like me, that gets the guys going towards each other. It stops a boring stalemate where you sit in the back, which, by the way, is the only scenario I could possibly win this at.
Yeah.
But, okay.
Exactly, yeah. That people are going to get time to run up to the next barrier, maybe 2, but not enough time that somebody should be able to sprint to the middle and hold down the spire. And if we notice that happening, maybe some people are like exploiting the rules. Well, not exploiting, but they found a loophole. We won't be afraid to patch things out, modify the rules so that it can be a more fun tournament rather than there's a meta. So like in meta, I mean that there's like a certain way that everybody's playing to win. So yeah.
And this is coming from the fastest player on the field, so he's willing to punish himself if he has to.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I don't want it to be a who's youngest game or who's fastest game. Even though I think that's my most valuable asset. So I'm putting myself as a handicap. So you can't say I rigged it for myself. So, last but not least, this is the going to touch on for the finals match, right? There's only one finals, right? So this would be the winner of the winner's bracket and the winner of the loser's bracket. They go into 1 7-round series on tires. And so unlike the other 2 rounds where the first, right, the placements, you bring your own marker. Second, you're given, a known marker. For the finals, there's going to be a little surprise, right? Both players are going to be given the same type of marker, but we're not letting you know what that is. And if that isn't enough of a twist, we're also limiting how much ammo you will have. So yeah, you'll have to play smarts. Every round you'll be given more, but like let's say you're getting a certain thing, you'll get 1 mag depending on how much it can hold, or 2 mags, or 20 shots in your hopper, 30, whatever. And just so everybody knows, we're not going to give something stupid, right? Mikey brought up this joke before in the comments that you might bring a slingshot. We're not going to give people something that, you know, is incredibly difficult to use, so it's a laughing.
My limited edition David and Goliath slingshot will be banned from the field.
I'm sorry, you can't bring it. Next time maybe.
Next time.
But yeah, so you won't be given something that's like you're in kindergarten. They're telling you to solve like an algebraic expression. So you'll know what you're doing still. There won't be anything where one person's at an advantage, one person's at a disadvantage. Otherwise, for the rules, we're scrapping the idea of the spire because since this is the finals match, we kind of want the rounds to be a little long and dramatic and intense. So players can only win the round by player elimination. And by elimination, I mean that the shot actually must break this time, and it can break anywhere on you, so even your marker now. In terms of spawning, the person in the winner's bracket decides their spawn first, and just like the playoff bracket, you alternate spawns, but instead it's every 2 rounds. So if the winner of the winner's bracket decides to spawn high ground, they spawn high ground the first 2 rounds, and round 3 and 4 they start the low ground. Then it goes back for 5 and 6. Then for 7 they start at the low ground, I guess. And yeah, that is the end of my slideshow and the end of my my TED Talk. I hope you learned something.
And for those of you listening on the audio podcast, because that comes out a lot sooner than the YouTube thing, it was spectacular. No, it was actually, and you voiced it very well for a lot of people listening. I'm sure that the picture came across there, and something which you guys probably heard is Connor's covering a lot of different things in it. He's got the first games are literally unlimited kills. And don't really mean you're out of the tournament. When you get to that playoff phase where it's best out of 5, the game changes. Well, guess what? You can lose. There's a loser's bracket. You can still do that. You got the game most rack up the kills. You got best out of 5. You got best out of 7. Part of the tournament, use whatever marker you want. Part of the tournament, you're given the field marker. It's like a whole bunch of tournaments in one, and that should make things very interesting, very fun, and yeah. So, any parting shots? I mean, besides that, we're supposed to have good weather for it. I say, unless it's raining cats and dogs, I'd do it in the light rain. That might make it even more fun. We just buy a case of Benadryl and everybody will be good.
Yeah, we'll get the generator and plug it in, get it going in the safe zone. Get a little heater so people can warm up.
We'll go milk sim. We'll go pick up some rations.
You're playing no matter
boil
what.
Some hot water.
Yeah, everybody's playing. No excuse.
Okay. Well, Connor, thank you for that very detailed and very well explained outline of the 1v1 tournament. I called it a thing, just a thing. Obviously you want it to be fair and you want it to be interesting, and I'm sure it'll be that. And with the group that we have at C1D, we're going to have lots of good stories after the 31 games that we're going to crunch out on Saturday. I want to thank Mike. I want to thank Connor. Mike, thanks for representing us at the Tipman Challenge while the rest of us were literally rowing around our houses to dry it out. We'll see you out at the field on Saturday.
Absolutely.
And Connor, I'm going to give you a big hug and say, good job, boy, on the podcast. Thanks for organizing the tournament. Everybody, thanks for listening. This is a semi-competitive tournament we're putting on. It's all for fun. That's what we're all about. So if this is the first time you've stumbled across this podcast or heard about us, we're just a bunch of guys that go out there and have fun. And a girl, not on the podcast, but she's out there somewhere. At least that's what Mike says. Um, thanks for listening.
I swear she's real.
Okay, go out there, be kind. Remember, at the end of the day, it's just it's a game, and yeah, the longest outro next time.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to like us, rate us, and tell everybody about us. Thanks for listening.